Tonight, missile campaigns intensify in the Middle East as Donald Trump warns of a big wave of strikes to come. Iran declares it's closed the Strait of Hormuz, raising fears of soaring oil prices. Hello, I'm Pamela Medlen. This is ABC News. The Liberal Party's secret election review made public by the Prime Minister. A Perth restaurant fined after serving children insect repellent instead of juice.
And coming up in weather from Kings Park, a rare blood moon lunar eclipse set to light up the sky.
US President Donald Trump has warned the biggest strike on Tehran is still to come and that he'll send in American troops if necessary. On the third day of the widening conflict, the Iranian regime's retaliation has been taking aim at more countries across the Gulf. It's pounding key oil refineries and shut down the Strait of Hormuz. The human cost of the war is also coming into focus. One human rights group says at least 1,500 people have been killed in Iran by US and Israeli strikes, including 200 civilians. Iran's latest retaliatory strikes have also hit an airbase used by Australians. We start our coverage of the war tonight with Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran.
Iran's capital under fire as the US strikes from the air and the sea. Daylight revealing the extent of destruction at the Gandhi hospital in the city's north. It was evacuated on Sunday after Israeli missiles fell nearby. The explosion also felt by residents in neighbouring apartments.
Suddenly I saw the door and windows and everything being thrown towards me. The chandelier fell and thick smoke covered everywhere. I was shocked.
And the United States says the biggest hits are yet to come. President Donald Trump honouring soldiers of past wars and the 6 American troops who've died in this new one.
In their memory, we continue this mission with ferocious, unyielding resolve. We have a lot of great service members here with us, too, in this beautiful building. Isn't it beautiful? We're improving the building. See that nice drape?
The president distracted in his first live address since the start of a war which could define his presidency.
Somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
Iran and its allies have fired back, hitting a hotel housing US troops in northern Iraq. In Bahrain, dozens of Iranian missiles and drones have been intercepted, but some slipped through. And an airbase outside Dubai, used by Australian forces, was also struck over the weekend.
All the Australians who are there are safe and accounted for.
We don't seek to regionalise the war. It will become regional simply because US bases and facilities are spread across our region.
In Kuwait, 3 US fighter jets were mistakenly shot down from apparent friendly fire. All 6 crew members managed to eject safely.
You want to save. You want to save. You want to save.
As the widening war enters a third day, there's still little clarity about what the US hopes to achieve and the legality of the preemptive strikes alongside Israel.
The imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us.
The US is praising Israel as a capable partner.
Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force.
Force which Israel is unleashing to its north. Renewing airstrikes on the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, which has joined Iran in the conflict. Civilians are fleeing the country's south and Hezbollah's stronghold suburbs in Beirut after overnight strikes killed at least 50 people.
We heard the sound of planes. At first we thought it was the airport because we live near it. Then we heard shelling. Suddenly people started screaming.
The United Nations is urging a return to diplomacy, but in the battered central Israeli city of Beit Shemesh, President Isaac Herzog was defiant.
We want peace, and for this, sometimes you need to fight, and that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, how do you respond to criticism from the UN that this is a breach of international law?
The first Israelis killed have been laid to rest. At least 9 have died.
There was no siren. Suddenly, the missile landed directly on the synagogue.
President Trump hasn't ruled out sending in American troops, saying he doesn't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground, and predicts the campaign will be over in 4 to 5 weeks.
To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq.
This is not an endless war. This is, in fact, something that will usher in an era of peace that we haven't even dreamed of.
But in its fight for survival, the Iranian regime says it's prepared for a long war.
And Matthew Doran is in Tel Aviv. Matthew, Iran is escalating its retaliatory strikes across the region and has hit a US embassy in Saudi Arabia.
Pamela, good evening. This suspected drone attack on the US embassy in the Saudi capital, Riyadh, happened a few hours ago in the early hours of this morning. Considering the time of day, it's not expected that there's been any injuries, and certainly damage does appear minimal, but it is reinforcing those comments from the US State Department to Americans across this region that they should be getting out, including, although taking note of, rather, the travel chaos which has enveloped much of the Middle East. The diplomatic quarter in Riyadh is also home to other countries' missions, including the Australian embassy, and that too has also been shut down pending the security situation on the ground, just a couple of hundred metres away from the US embassy there. It goes to show that Iran is expanding its attacks. It is emboldened in which countries it is choosing to attack. We have also heard this morning, local time, that the Israel Defence Minister, Israel Katz, has authorised IDF forces to move further into Lebanese territory in the south of that country. Another escalation on another front. Pamela.
And while a small number of commercial flights have managed to fly out of the war-ravaged region, the federal government is warning there's no immediate solution for stranded Australians. More than 17,000 flights have been delayed globally, and travellers fear there's no end in sight.
As missiles flew across the region, stranded tourists took shelter in hotel basements, bedding down on floors and mattresses as they waited out the night.
People were generally fearful for their lives. I was just absolutely terrified.
Sydney woman Kelly Exner is now safe at a friend's home in Dubai, but has no idea for how long, and only has a few weeks' worth of medication for severe refractory Crohn's disease.
I think everybody just needs to manage expectations about when we get out, right? Like, it's terrifying, it's, scary, it's absolutely horrible to be, away from friends and family in a country that you don't understand.
Back home in the Blue Mountains, Andy and Rachel Foster are $30,000 out of pocket for a trip they were meant to embark on tonight.
Because it was the weekend, we couldn't get in touch with the travel agent, so we just sort of tried to make our own decisions as to what we thought was going to happen.
The Australian government is working on contingencies to get Australians out, but has ruled out military-assisted evacuation for now.
I am advised that a small number of commercial flights to other destinations were able to depart overnight. However, the unfortunate reality is that immediate resolution to this situation is unlikely.
And experts are warning of more retaliatory strikes by Iran on infrastructure across the region.
I see no reason why they would stop doing it, because they already see that they're getting some results from it. A huge airport like Dubai Airport has been closed down, which has a massive effect on international aviation.
More than 17,000 flights have been delayed globally and more than 3,000 cancelled as of this morning. Australians in the Middle East are urged to register with the Department of Foreign Affairs, while airlines are telling customers to closely monitor flight information and visit the government's Smart Traveller website. Christy Sexton-McGrath, ABC News.
The war is threatening global oil and gas supplies, with concerns the supply shock could stoke inflation and send petrol prices soaring. WA motorists have been urged to fill up before 6 a.m, when the cost of regular unleaded petrol in Perth will rise by an average 29 cents a litre. The Federal Treasurer has directed the competition watchdog to monitor petrol prices, and rate hikes appear more likely.
Smoke billowing from one of the world's biggest refineries after it was hit by Iranian drones. This attack on key Saudi Arabian oil infrastructure marks a dramatic escalation in Iran's strategy to halt the flow of oil to the west. That has Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock worried.
It's too early to say what the economic impact will be. A supply shock of this nature, for example, could add to inflation pressures, and the potential implications for inflation expectations also are something that we're very alert to.
That's code for prepare for possible rate hikes. After the weekend attacks, Iran's retaliation initially targeted military installations across the region, along with 3 tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, everything from ports to pipelines is in its sights.
An Iranian general has said not one drop of oil leaving the region. The US is certainly looking to prevent that scenario from happening.
Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest exporter, ships the bulk of its oil and gas through the Persian Gulf, along with Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE and Iran. But it has a pipeline to shunt oil and gas through the Red Sea in case of a threat.
The pipeline infrastructure doesn't move anywhere near as much as the on-sea shipping capacity. So yes, it helps and it limits the damage, but it doesn't replace shipping.
Qatar, one of the world's biggest gas exporters, has shut down LNG production after strikes against 2 facilities. A spike in gas prices 4 years ago sent inflation into orbit. That forced the RBA into a punishing series of rate hikes. The Treasurer is warning against price gouging at the petrol pump, but surging gas prices could be a much bigger headache. Ian Verrinder, ABC News.
Let's go to Tabarak, our Jrood now, who's in Kings Park to get a better view of tonight's eclipse. How's it looking, Tabarak?
Well, Pamela, it's really filling up here at Kings Park. Lots of stargazers here to get a glimpse of the rare phenomenon. Now, the event is already underway, with totality having begun from about 7 p.m. here in Perth, and that's expected to last for about an hour. We've already seen the moon start to form here behind me, but during that time, we'll see it transform from its normal neutral colour to a warm reddish orange hue. Now, a total lunar eclipse happens when the Earth lines up perfectly between the moon and the sun, blocking the sun's light and casting a shadow onto the moon, which is considered to be relatively rare. So it's a very exciting time for many people, especially for all the stargazers here at Kings Park. We spoke to some of them a little earlier.
And we can show them craters up close, all these really lovely lunar features. So they really get up close and learn a lot more detail.
One of my big passions around astronomy is sharing it with people. So to be here at Kings Park, to be able to share this with so many adults and kids.
I love watching it because when I went to Broome last year, we saw it over there and that was so nice.
Tonight we'll also have a bonus sighting. Jupiter will also be visible in the sky, so it's really just a great time for people to be out and connect with the night sky tonight. And you don't need any special equipment. You can just step outside and view the eclipse with the naked eye, which was what we'll be doing here. I'll be back with the rest of your weather and hopefully a redder moon.
The Prime Minister has taunted his political opponents, tabling the Liberal Party's secret election review in Parliament. The report makes for uncomfortable reading for the current Liberal leadership team, blaming their policies in part for the party's dismal result. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
Brandishing a review his opponents wanted to bury.
I table it for them so that they can read the report.
The Prime Minister put the Liberal Party's secret election review on the public record.
About the diabolical campaign that they ran.
In a copy obtained by the ABC, Peter Dutton's described as a grim and introverted leader who made himself captain, coach and ball boy of an incoherent campaign. He presided over the Liberals' worst ever election defeat. Every demographic except over 55s was lost in a campaign that alienated women and offended migrants. Another point of failure, policies. The decision to oppose Labor's income tax cuts immediately impacted on the coalition's economic credentials. The deeply unpopular working from home plan, the turning point, which cost one regional candidate her seat. Policies the new Liberal leadership team were responsible for.
Those who now have control of the party were the architects of their electoral defeat.
Oh, well, I would have thought a Minister of the Crown had better things to do than read a Liberal Party election review, but clearly not.
Can I thank you once again?
The review discussed at today's joint party room meeting, MPs committing to learn from their defeat.
We should go much further and make sure that we are an election-winning machine.
The decision by the party's executive not to publish this report now looks like an own goal. It was always going to leak, and the party's accepted most of its recommendations. For his part, Peter Dutton thinks it's a distorted version of history, but the end of an unedifying chapter. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Premier Roger Cook has warned of the dangers of divisive language, saying it can lead to hatred within the community. He's echoed the Prime Minister in calling for political and other leaders to lower the temperature in the wake of the first person in WA to be charged with preparing a terrorist act.
The Premier says language matters and has consequences.
You use comments like there's no such thing as a good Muslim, well then you are providing an opportunity and permission for people to be able to go out there and express those thoughts of hatred and division and potentially physically express them as well.
It comes after the Senate censured One Nation leader Pauline Hanson for suggesting in a television interview that there are no good Muslims.
The words of parliamentarians echo into classrooms, workplaces, communities. They help shape how others see each other and how they see themselves. A nation divided against itself is a nation diminished.
WA One Nation leader Rod Caddies agrees language matters but believes Ms Hanson was misunderstood.
It's not what she meant. So I support Pauline in her stance in what she stands for against radical Islam.
20-year-old Jason Michaels was last week charged with acting in preparation for mass casualty terror attacks on mosques, Parliament and the WA Police headquarters in Perth.
It's incumbent on all community leaders to make sure that we do our best to dial down the temperature, actually reflect the values of our society, which is ones around inclusion and multiculturalism.
Muslim leaders have called for more security at mosques, with police saying they are focused on identifying any racially motivated and extremist activity and can increase police numbers if necessary. Courtney Withers, ABC News.
A WA teenager has pleaded guilty to threatening to kill the New South Wales Premier and Prime Minister. Will James King made the threats in a direct message to Chris Minns' Instagram account in January. King said he would assassinate the Premier and Prime Minister and also messaged, "You're a Jew, not a real Semite." The magistrate said there was no explanation for the comments and sought a psychological report before sentencing. The 19-year-old's lawyer said his client was extremely remorseful and didn't realise the gravity of his messages.
My client is a young man and like anybody else, he made an honest mistake.
Construction has commenced on a major expansion at Osborne Park Hospital. The first sod has been turned, where there'll be a new 6-storey clinical building which will include a family birth centre and obstetrics theatres. The expansion comes under the government's $1.8 billion new Women and Babies Hospital project, with the lion's share going towards a new Women and Babies Hospital at Murdoch. Both projects are due to be completed in 2029.
Well, to date, all the advice to me is we are tracking very well. I note that the opposition did not believe that we would have construction started. We have, and this again is another important milestone that demonstrates we are getting on with the job.
A now closed Perth restaurant and its owner have been fined $40,000 after 2 children were served insect repellent instead of juice. The girls, aged 11 and 12, were with their parents at Mickey's in Crawley for dinner in June 2024 when they complained their cranberry juice tasted like it had been poisoned. A bartender employed by the restaurant had given the girls a pink-coloured solution of citronella torch and lamp oil. Michelle and Julie, who didn't serve the drinks but owned the business, was found guilty of selling food that was unsafe and related charges. The girls' parents hope it sends a strong message.
The issue for me is more that it drives a bit more rigour in the industry, and that we get to a point where maybe business owners in the hospitality industry better understand the accountabilities that they hold.
More than 9 hours of video has been released of Bill and Hillary Clinton answering questions about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Sitting through separate depositions in the US congressional probe, the pair distanced themselves from the disgraced financier, suggesting the current US president might have more to share.
A former president distancing himself from a pedophile.
I have no idea. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I do not remember doing that. There's nothing that I saw when I was around him that made me realize he was trafficking women.
Newly released recordings showing Bill Clinton answering questions from a House committee investigating the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't remember everything that happened 24 years ago.
The former president saying he cut ties long before his crimes were discovered in 2008 and that his trips on Epstein's jet were related to his foundation's work combating AIDS across the globe. Calm under questioning.
I'm not happy, but I'm comfortable.
No matter how uncomfortable the evidence.
Did you ever have sexual contact with any young woman or girl introduced to you by Epstein or Maxwell?
No.
The former president revealed little that wasn't already on the public record.
Mr. President, what did you accept? That he killed himself or that he did not?
That he did, but I don't know.
In the same chair a day earlier, Hillary Clinton revealed even less.
I do not recall ever meeting Jeffrey Epstein.
Her long day under oath was tense after a Republican member leaked a picture from inside the closed room.
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home.
The former Secretary of State said she only had a casual friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell, a +1 to her daughter's 2010 wedding, and suggested Donald Trump could be more helpful.
But given what's in the files and given past and prior conduct, he would be on my witness list.
The president denies any wrongdoing. Melissa McKay, ABC News.
To finance, and oil and gas stocks continued to rise on the local share market, but that was the only bright spot in an otherwise grim day for investors. Here's Alan Kohler.
The American market was held steady by oil company shares going up and an unrelated bounce in tech stocks, but shares in Japan and Europe were hit fairly hard. And that was the tone in Australia today, where mining stocks and others with a global focus were sold. Energy companies and banks were bought. Oil, gas, gold and silver continued to rally for obvious reasons, especially gas, after the world's biggest LNG export facility in Qatar was shut down after it was hit by an Iranian drone. At one stage, European gas futures were up 54% before settling 39% higher. And gold is having another run at its record high. And the Aussie dollar is standing still, holding its breath, hoping nobody notices it. The ABS released housing approvals data for January today. They fell 7.2%, with units down 25%. Now, the Reserve Bank's head economist, Sarah Hunter, gave a very interesting speech in Norway last night, comparing what the RBA has done with interest rates against the average of other advanced countries. Our cash rate peaked at 4.35%, as we know. The others, on average, peaked at 5.7%. They're now the same at 3.85%. That's meant higher inflation here than it would have been, what Sarah Hunter calls the counterfactual, if the RBA cash rate had been the same as the average of the others. More importantly for the RBA, it's also meant less unemployment, which was the plan. Our unemployment rate is 4.1%. The counterfactual is 5.2%. And the grey shaded area shows the range of other advanced countries, which is enormous. And Australia's jobless rate is the lowest. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, as different states look to tighten gun laws, what will keep Australians safe?
In Australia, the mere act of owning a firearm is a political act.
We said we would respond, and respond we have.
There doesn't seem to be any relationship between the number of legally owned guns and firearm violence in Australia.
I guess we can make the same argument, why don't we ban cars? We'll have less car accidents. It's not a practical outcome.
Matilda's midfielder Amy Sayer has acknowledged the bravery of the Iranian women's team ahead of Thursday's Asian Cup group game on the Gold Coast. Sayer says the Matildas' hearts go out to the Iranian women who are playing while their country is under attack.
Back in training on the Gold Coast, the Matildas are aiming to maintain their unbeaten start to the Asian Cup and improve on their underwhelming 1-0 win over the Philippines. But they're also mindful of the pressure that their next opponent, Iran, is under on and off the pitch.
Our heart goes out to them and their families. It's a difficult situation. And, you know, it's really brave of them to be able to be here and to perform. The best we can do to contribute is to just give them the best game of football that we're able to, show them the respect on the field.
The Iran players also had the respect of the fans last night before they played their first game of the tournament.
It's going to be very hard for them to just be in the match. We'll support them to do their best, and we're more than happy to have them here.
I would say it's not easy to be a female Iranian athlete. I don't think the West will ever understand the dynamics that they have to deal with.
There was no singing from the Iran team members during the national anthem. They had some promising moments in a determined display, but were outclassed 3-0 by the 2022 finalist, South Korea.
And it's headed home.
North Korea also started its campaign on a winning note.
And the follow-up volley!
Defeating Uzbekistan 3-0 in Parramatta. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
Tabarak is back with us now, and how's that moon looking now, Tabarak?
Well, Pamela, I mentioned before that it was filling up here, but now Kings Park is certainly packed with all these stargazers keen to catch a glimpse of this total lunar eclipse. I'm not sure if you can see it behind me, but the moon has started moving up and you can see that orange tinge starting to form. We're really lucky here in Perth. The skies are clear and it's still fairly warm outside, so couldn't ask for better conditions to see the eclipse, especially after clouds washed out last year's eclipse in September and left many stargazers disappointed. So really the last time people here in the West saw a blood moon was in November 2022. So it's a really exciting event for many people here because it will be the last time we see this phenomenon for nearly 3 years. So you definitely don't want to miss your chance tonight. It is definitely a great way to end the day after a warm sunny day here in Perth. We reached a top of 33.4 degrees around 2 o'clock this afternoon after dropping to 16 degrees overnight. Further south, it was fairly cooler. Albany Airport, Jacob and Bridgetown all dropped to 10 degrees overnight. Meanwhile, the highest maximum today was 42 degrees at Roebourne Airport. On the satellite, there's extensive cloud across the tropical north due to a monsoon trough there, which has 3 embedded tropical lows developing along it, including one over the western Kimberley, which is continuing to bring heavy rain and thunderstorms. For the rest of the state, a high-pressure ridge is keeping things mostly settled and sunny, but it will be a very hot week for western parts as a west coast trough continues to draw in heat, so we could see some heat wave conditions across the western Pilbara and the Gascoyne districts. Around the country tomorrow will be cloudy and 22 in Melbourne, partly cloudy conditions in Adelaide and Hobart, and a shower or two forecast for the remaining capitals. Back in WA's north, it's a bit of rinse and repeat. That trough through the Kimberley will continue to fire up showers and thunderstorms over the region. There's also a chance of showers over the eastern Pilbara, but it is staying hot there and over the Gascoyne district. Now that heat will extend down the west coast, so temperatures will be pushing into the 40s across the central west district, and it's also staying very warm and sunny further inland through the goldfields and wheat belt. Further south, there is the chance of morning fog over southern parts of the southwest land division, but otherwise conditions will be mostly sunny across the regions. 35 in Collie, 34 in Busselton and Katanning, about 10 degrees cooler in Albany though. In Perth, we're in for another hot day tomorrow, but unfortunately there's no cool break in between. We're only dropping to 20 degrees overnight before going on to reach a forecast maximum of 36 degrees. On local waters, winds will be southeasterly 15 to 20 knots, becoming southerly in the middle of the day with seas up to 2 metres. The sun will rise at 6:08 and set at 12 minutes to 7. And then looking ahead, that summer weather is sticking around, sunny and 35 on Thursday, back to a hot 36 degrees for Friday and Saturday, with minimums also staying fairly warm this week. So we're definitely not done with those summer conditions just yet, Pamela. Now the eclipse is set to peak in about a few minutes, so we're very excited to see that, but there is still another half an hour before it ends. So if you haven't had the chance to observe the eclipse yet, there's still time, because trust me, you don't want to miss this event. Like I said, you don't need any special equipment. Just go outside and have a look, because it is an incredible sight, Pamela.
Thanks for that, Tabarak. I hope you enjoy that spectacle. I hope to get outside and catch a little glimpse of it before the peak as well now. That's ABC News. We'll be back with you tomorrow. You can, of course, catch the news anytime on ABC iView, but stay with us now for 7:30.